Think about the last time you filled up your tank. You pulled in, you grabbed the cheapest grade, you tapped your card, and you drove away. Probably took you 4 minutes, maybe 3 if you were in a hurry. And here's the thing. Most car owners do that 2 or 3 times a week, every week, for years, without ever thinking about it. But that routine, for a lot of drivers, it's quietly doing damage. Not the kind you feel tomorrow. Not the kind that triggers a warning light next week. The kind that builds up slowly, invisibly, over tens of thousands of miles, until one day, your mechanic shows you a repair estimate, and you genuinely don't understand how it got that bad. Today, we're going to talk about why that happens. I'm going to show you what's actually going on inside your engine every time you fill up at the wrong station. I'm going to name the brands that put you at higher risk, and I'm going to give you the 5 that are doing it right. Before this video ends, you'll have a simple filter you can use every time you pull into a gas station, and it costs you nothing to apply it. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Gas is gas. It all comes from the same pipeline. This sounds like someone trying to scare me into buying premium. Fair. Let's actually talk about the real story here, because it's more specific than most people realize. Back in 2004, 8 major automakers, GM, Toyota, BMW, Honda, Volkswagen, Mercedes-Benz, Audi, and later several others, decided that the minimum detergent standard the EPA had set back in 1995 wasn't good enough. It kept engines from seizing. It passed a baseline test, but it didn't keep engines clean over time. So they created their own standard. They called it top tier. And the idea is simple. Fuel that carries top-tier certification contains a higher concentration of detergent additives than the federal minimum requires. That's it. More detergent, better protection, cleaner engine over time. Now here's where it gets interesting. Top tier isn't based on brand recognition. It's not based on how many locations a station has or how familiar the logo looks. It's a voluntary certification. And some of the biggest gas station names in the country either don't carry it at all or only carry it at certain grades or locations. We'll get to exactly who those are. But first, let me show you what happens inside your engine when fuel doesn't meet that standard. Before we go any further, here's something you can actually do right now while you're watching this. Pull up your phone and go to toptiergas.com. There's a full list of certified brands there, searchable by country. You can see in about 30 seconds whether your regular station is on it. If it is, great. You're probably in decent shape. If it's not, keep watching, because what comes next explains exactly why that matters more than most people think. This website is run by the Top Tier program itself. It's not a third-party ranking or an opinion list. It's the official certification database. If a brand is on there, they've paid to be tested, and they've committed to maintaining that standard across their fuel supply. If they're not on there, they're selling to the EPA floor, and that floor is lower than you'd expect. All right, now let's get into what's actually happening to the engines of people who've been filling up at non-certified stations for years. Here's the thing about fuel detergents. Their job isn't to make your engine faster or get you better mileage. Their job is to keep things clean. Specifically, to prevent carbon deposits from forming on your fuel injectors and inside your combustion chamber. Every engine burns fuel, and every combustion cycle leaves behind a small amount of residue. That's unavoidable. The question is whether your fuel's detergent package is strong enough to clean that residue before it starts to stick. When it is, no problem. Engine stays clean, injectors spray in a precise pattern, combustion is efficient. When it isn't, that residue accumulates, slowly. A thin layer here, another layer on top of it, and over time you end up with carbon deposits coating the tips of your injectors. The spray pattern changes. The fuel doesn't atomize properly. Your combustion becomes less efficient. And that's when drivers start noticing things like rough idle, slight hesitation on acceleration, or a subtle drop in fuel economy, often without connecting it back to the gas station they've been using for 3 years. Now here's where this gets more serious for a specific group of drivers. If you own a car made after roughly 2012, there's a good chance you have a gasoline direct injection engine, what mechanics call a GDI engine. Almost every major manufacturer has moved to GDI over the last decade because it's more efficient. But it has one structural vulnerability that older engines didn't have. In older port injection engines, fuel was sprayed before it entered the cylinder, which meant it washed over the intake valves on the way in and helped keep them clean. GDI engines spray fuel directly into the cylinder, so the intake valves never get that fuel bath. They rely entirely on your oil's volatility and whatever detergent is in your fuel to stay clean. And when your fuel's detergent level is low, those intake valves accumulate carbon deposits that nothing is cleaning off. Over time, we're talking 40,000 to 80,000 miles, depending on your driving habits. Those deposits get thick enough to affect airflow into the engine. By that point, you're not dealing with a simple flush. You're looking at an intake valve carbon cleaning service, which typically runs between $300 and $600 at a shop, sometimes more depending on the engine. Some dealerships quote higher. That's not a small bill, and for a lot of drivers, it comes completely out of nowhere. All right, here's what you actually came for. Let's start with the stations that are top-tier certified. These brands have met the higher detergent standard and maintain it across their fuel supply. Shell, Chevron, Costco Kirkland, Exxon Mobil, Mobil, 76, QuikTrip, Texaco, Sinclair, and Sunoco are among the brands consistently on the top-tier list. If you fill up at Costco, and their gas is typically one of the cheapest at the pump and top-tier certified, that is genuinely one of the better deals available to a car owner right now. Now here's the part that catches people off guard. Some of the stations that don't make the top-tier list are ones you'd expect to be fine. Murphy USA, the stations attached to Walmart locations, which are among the most price competitive in the country, has historically not carried top-tier certification. A lot of regional discount chains fall into the same category. Some independently operated convenience store stations. Stations that are branded but operated by independent franchisees who source fuel separately. They may not be consistent. And here's the nuance that most videos skip over. Certification can vary by region, by grade, and over time. A station's brand on the canopy doesn't always tell you what's in the underground tank. That's why checking toptiergas.com for your specific location matters more than just recognizing the logo. The price difference at the pump between a top-tier station and a non-certified one is usually a few cents per gallon, sometimes nothing at all. It's not a meaningful budget difference on a per fill-up basis. But that small difference in detergent concentration adds up over years of driving, and the people who feel it most are the ones driving GDI engines on long commutes, short city trips, or older high-mileage vehicles where the engine is already accumulating deposits. And here's the thing about those discount stations near the highway. The low price is real. They're genuinely cheaper. But that price doesn't include the cost of keeping your intake valves clean over time. That part gets billed later. Okay, let's take a breath here for a second. Maybe your regular station is on the good list. Great, you're done. We'll confirm that in the checklist at the end. But what if it's not? What if your go-to station is a few cents cheaper and you drive past it twice a day, and switching means going out of your way? You've got options, and one of them costs about $10. This is something a lot of mechanics quietly do when they're stuck filling up somewhere they wouldn't normally choose. And it's backed by independent testing, not just word of mouth. Let's run the math first, because I think once you see the numbers, the decision becomes pretty clear. Top-tier fuel typically costs between 3 and 10 cents more per gallon than the cheapest option available. Let's call it 5 cents to keep it conservative. If you fill up with 15 gallons and you do that 50 times a year, that's roughly once a week. You're spending an extra $37.50 per year at a top-tier station compared to the cheapest pump you can find. $37.50. Now compare that to an injector cleaning service, $150 to $400, or a full intake valve carbon cleaning on a GDI engine, $300 to $600 or more. That's not a close call. You're paying $37 a year in prevention versus a potential $400 repair on an engine that gave you zero warning it was coming. If you can't easily switch to a top-tier station, or you've already been running non-certified fuel for a while, and you want to do something about it right now, here's what actually works. Chevron Techron Concentrate Plus. You can find it at any AutoZone, O'Reilly, Advance Auto, or Walmart for about $10 to $15. It's a detergent additive that you pour directly into your fuel tank. AAA independently tested fuel additives and found that products like Techron do measurably reduce injector deposits compared to running untreated low-detergent fuel. One bottle every 5,000 miles. That's roughly $15 a year. It's not a cure for an engine that already has heavy deposits. Nothing you pour into your tank will dissolve heavy carbon buildup that's already baked onto intake valves. But as a maintenance habit for someone who's running non-top-tier fuel, it's a reasonable second-best option. Think of it this way. Top-tier fuel is the proactive choice. Techron is the damage control choice. Either way, $15 a year is a very small hedge against a $400 repair. I want to address two things I hear a lot because they come up every time this topic comes up. First, my car runs completely fine. I don't doubt it. Carbon deposit buildup is a slow process. You won't feel anything for tens of thousands of miles in most cases. The engine runs, it starts, it drives, and then somewhere around the 50,000 to 80,000 mile mark on a GDI engine, you start noticing a rough idle or a slight hesitation, or your fuel economy quietly dropping. By that point, the deposits are already there. They didn't show up overnight. They built up through years of routine fill-ups. Running fine right now doesn't mean it's been running clean. Second, but all gas comes from the same pipeline. This one is actually true, and it's exactly why the distinction matters. The crude oil, the refining, the transport, yes, a lot of that is shared infrastructure. The same tanker truck might deliver base fuel to a Shell station and a discount station on the same day. But here's what changes at the terminal before it goes into that truck. The additive package. Top-tier certified retailers add their proprietary detergent blend at a higher concentration before it gets loaded. Non-certified retailers add whatever meets the ETA floor, or sometimes a generic package that just meets minimum compliance. Same crude oil, different additive package. That's the whole story. All right, here's exactly what to do coming out of this video. Step 1. Go to toptiergas.com and check your regular station. Takes 30 seconds. If it's certified, you're in good shape. Just keep going there. Step 2. If your regular station isn't certified, find the closest top-tier option on your commute. Shell, Chevron, Costco, Mobil, QuikTrip. There's almost certainly one within a reasonable distance. The cost difference is a few cents a gallon. It's worth it. Step 3. If you've been running non-top-tier fuel for 2 years or more, especially if you drive a GDI engine, pick up a bottle of Chevron Techron at your next AutoZone run. Add it to your next full tank. Then put it on your calendar once every 5,000 miles as a maintenance habit. 3 steps, probably 5 minutes of actual effort, and the protection you're buying with those 5 minutes is real. The drivers who end up with $400 injector cleaning bills or $600 intake valve services usually didn't ignore their car. They maintained it. They changed their oil on time. They rotated their tires. They just never knew that what was going into their tank mattered as much as what came out of their tailpipe. Now you know. Check your station. Make the switch if you need to. And if you've been running dirty for a while, a $15 bottle of Techron is a very good place to start. One quick thing before you go. Drop your regular gas station in the comments. I'm curious how many of you are already on top tier without knowing it, and how many are going to be checking that website for the first time today. And if this video surprised you, if the top tier thing was news to you, you're going to want to watch the next one. Because what we cover today is the beginning of the story. What happens when those deposits actually get bad enough to reach your intake valves, the carbon coating that no fuel additive can touch once it's set in? That's a different level of repair. On GDI engines, we're talking about a walnut blasting service or a full intake cleaning that runs $800 to $1,500 depending on the engine. And the people who end up there almost always say the same thing. The car seemed fine. I had no idea. That video is right here. I'll see you in it.